In 2018, AMC Theaters put out a number that should have ended a company on the spot. AMC's average ticket price, what a regular customer pays, full price, no discount, was $9.78. What AMC was collecting on average from every ticket a MoviePass subscriber used, $12.02. MoviePass was paying more than full price for tickets it was reselling for $10 a month, unlimited. That's not a rounding error. That's not a growth phase gone long. That's a company losing money on the first movie a customer sees, not the 30th, not the Daily Power user, the first one. And they built it that way on purpose, then sold it to 3 million people before anyone asked what happens when the bill comes due. This is the story of how a $10 subscription became one of the fastest, strangest collapses in modern business history, and how the company at the center of it knew from day one that the math didn't work. MoviePass wasn't new in 2017. It had been around since 2011, founded by Stacy Spikes and Hamit Watt in San Francisco. Built on a fairly conservative idea: pay a flat monthly fee, see a set number of movies, skip the box office line. Early pricing sat between $29 and $50 a month, depending on the market and the plan. It was a niche product for people who already went to the movies a lot. Nothing about it was designed to lose money. It was priced close to what an active moviegoer would spend anyway, with a small margin baked in for MoviePass. In 2016, the company brought in a new CEO, Mitch Lowe, a veteran of Netflix and Redbox, two companies that had each, in very different ways, rewired how people paid for entertainment. Lowe's arrival came with a new tiered structure: 2 movies a month, 3 movies a month, or unlimited. The unlimited tier still priced around $40 to $50. This was a small, sustainable, forgettable subscription business. Then in August 2017, everything about it changed in a single press release. A data analytics firm called Helios and Matheson Analytics bought a majority stake in MoviePass. Its CEO, Ted Farnsworth, had a theory, and he said it out loud, on the record, more than once. MoviePass wasn't really a ticketing company. It was a data company that happened to sell movie tickets. He compared it, more than once, to Facebook and Google. Give the product away, monetize the data instead. Applied to movie theaters, that meant the ticket price wasn't the business anymore. It was the acquisition cost for a second, unproven business, selling viewing habits back to studios and advertisers. So the price dropped, not to $30, not to $20, to $9.95 a month for 1 movie a day, every day, unlimited. The math was intentionally absurd, and that was the point. It was built to go viral. It did. MoviePass's website crashed within hours of the announcement under sign-up demand. In under 2 months, subscribers went from 20,000 to more than 600,000. Helios and Matheson's stock spiked from under $3 a share to an intraday high of nearly $39 in October alone. For a moment, it looked like the biggest bet in movie theater history had just paid off overnight. It hadn't. It had just started. Here's the part of the story that turns this from an experiment that got away from them into something else entirely. Stacy Spikes, the co-founder, the person who had run this company conservatively for 6 years before the acquisition, told leadership internally that the $9.95 price was not sustainable. He said it more than once. In January 2018, 5 months after the price cut, Spikes was fired. Not because the model was failing yet. Subscriber growth was still climbing. Stock was still up. He was removed before the collapse, while the narrative was still genius growth hack. That timing matters because it tells you leadership wasn't blindsided later by a surprise. They had the warning early from the person who understood the unit economics better than anyone else in the room, and they chose to remove the warning instead of adjusting the plan. By February 2018, subscribers passed 2 million. The company kept cutting the price anyway, down to $7.95 for annual plans, then $6.95 in March. Each cut pulled in more users. Each user pulled in more losses. In April 2018, the company's own disclosures confirmed what Spikes had been saying. Helios and Matheson had been burning through roughly $20 million a month since the previous September. Later estimates put the real number closer to $40 million a month at points in 2018. They weren't scaling toward profitability. They were scaling toward a wall. By mid-2018, the company had 2 honest options: raise the price to something sustainable or shut the unlimited plan down. They tried the first one. In August 2018, MoviePass announced a hike from $9.95 to $14.95, The backlash was immediate and loud enough that they reversed it within days. So instead, they chose a third option, one that was never announced because it couldn't survive being announced. Rather than change the price publicly, the company quietly made the product worse for the customers, costing it the most money. Popular new releases got blacked out from the app entirely. Mission Impossible, Fallout, The Meg, pulled right in the middle of their opening weekends, and according to federal investigators, that was the smaller move. MoviePass employees were directed to actively throttle its heaviest users, forcing password resets they hadn't asked for, adding extra verification steps at the theater box office, deliberately making the app harder to use for the exact subscribers using it the most. The product was still called Unlimited. It had quietly stopped being unlimited for anyone the company couldn't afford. Less than 2 weeks after that, on July 26, 2018, the entire service went down, blamed publicly on a vendor outage. It wasn't a vendor. The company had run out of operating cash and borrowed $5 million overnight just to bring the app back online. This is the moment the story stops being about a bad pricing decision and becomes a decision to hide what the pricing decision had done. The Federal Trade Commission later built a case around exactly the throttling, deliberately blocking access customers had already paid for while still marketing the plan as unlimited. The numbers from here move fast. Third quarter 2018 losses hit $137 million. The company executed a 250-to-1 reverse stock split just to stay listed on the NASDAQ, a maneuver companies use when their share price has fallen so far that exchange rules threaten to delist them. It didn't work for long. Helios and Matheson was delisted in February 2019 anyway. Subscribers who'd flooded in during the $10 era started leaving even faster. Over 1 million cancellations by October 2018. By April 2019, paid subscribers had collapsed more than 90% from their peak, from 3 million down to roughly 225,000. On September 14, 2019, MoviePass shut the service down for good, citing a failed attempt to raise new capital. 4 months later, on January 28, 2020, parent company Helios and Matheson filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, full liquidation, not restructuring. The company later admitted it owed roughly $1.2 million in unpaid refunds to about 12,000 customers, around $100 each. MoviePhone, the once iconic listings brand MoviePass had acquired along the way, sold for scrap at bankruptcy auction, $1 million, a fraction of what it cost to acquire. By any conventional financial measure, this was one of the fastest rise to liquidation stories in recent corporate history. 8 years of existence, 25 months from genius growth hack to bankruptcy filing. Here's where most versions of this story end. The bankruptcy, the shutdown, the app that took the movies too far. But this one has a second ending, years later, and it matters because it confirms something this whole video has been arguing rather than just implying. In November 2022, the Department of Justice indicted both Ted Farnsworth and Mitch Lowe on securities fraud and wire fraud charges. The core allegation was simple. Both men knew from the beginning that the $9.95 unlimited plan was never a real long-term price. Internally, prosecutors say it was treated as a short-term marketing gimmick to move the stock, while publicly, in interviews and in official SEC filings, both men called it market-tested and sustainable. That's the charge that matters most, not a company that got the math wrong. Two executives who allegedly knew the math didn't work and said otherwise anyway. Mitch Lowe pleaded guilty in September 2024 to conspiracy to commit securities fraud. Ted Farnsworth pleaded guilty in January 2025 to securities fraud and conspiracy. The Justice Department's estimate of total investor losses, cited in Lowe's plea agreement, roughly $303 million, a figure his attorneys dispute, but the one prosecutors used. One more detail, smaller but worth including. The DOJ frames Farnsworth's case as one of its first AI washing prosecutions, alleging the data monetization technology behind the original Facebook and Google pitch, the thing that was supposed to eventually make $9.95 sustainable, was never actually built. It's not the headline, it's confirmation of the headline. The cross-subsidy wasn't running late. According to prosecutors, it was never real to begin with. Stacy Spikes, the co-founder who was fired for saying this wouldn't work, bought MoviePass's remains out of bankruptcy in 2021 and relaunched it in August 2022, this time with tiered, non-unlimited pricing that varies by market. No $9.95 plan, no promise of a data business waiting in the wings. The company that MoviePass killed itself trying to become, The one with the AI, the data pipeline, the Facebook-style monetization engine, never had to be built for the relaunch to work. It just needed the price to match the cost, which is, in the end, the entire lesson sitting underneath this whole story. The business model wasn't broken because $10 was too cheap. It was broken because nobody ever built the thing that was supposed to make $10 enough.